Welcome to the Post-Human Podcast.
Welcome, today's guest, the host of Hermit Radio Podcast, a vet from the Afghan War, an author of Caveman to Philosopher, Cameron Harman.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tim.
So yeah, that was a big, long introduction there, but I wanted to make sure I nailed it. Fingers crossed I did that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's get into it. I've spoke to a lot of authors lately, but I've not spoke to one that's been in the wars, so to speak. Literally. I meant also the from the publishing side of it as well. That's a different kind of war.
Different, yeah, exactly.
But let's talk a little bit about your book.
Yeah, so it's about my life, but it's in two parts. So the first half is talking about my life and what happened, so that it kind of gives people context. And then the second half of the book is talking about the idea, at least the philosophies that I believe in, that helped me change, and that I hope will help the reader change as well.
Okay, it's cool. It's kind of cool that you're doing it in two parts, because it's almost excuse me, it's almost two different perspectives in a way.
Yeah.
I like the fact it's called Caveman to Philosopher. That's two completely contrasting things in itself. One thing that we did speak about is Alan Watts.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of Akira the Don. A very big fan. I like Alan Watts just from his talks, but Akira the Don has created. Excuse me. Throat. Excuse me there. Throat's a bit harsh today. It's chasing after my son earlier, and I had to have a bit of a shout today, just for his own safety. He's a big climber. Excuse me, sorry. But yeah, Akira the Don, he's created this new sort of version of music called Meaning Wave, and he has a lot of people on, like Graham Hancock and Alan Watts, and the Alan Watts ones are fantastic. And I listen to him on a pretty regular basis, including, some of the talks that he does. And so what got you into Alan Watts? Because again, that must have a somewhat play in terms of what you're writing now, because again, he's a philosopher in a way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I came across him just kind of like how everybody does, he's pretty popular. So when I started listening to his lectures, at first, I really had no idea what he was talking about. It really didn't make any sense to me, but it started getting me to a place where it started making me ask questions, and that was enough. And then when I started, listening to Alan Watts and then meditating and working on self-development, all of those things combined started to change me. And then I had this wild experience during meditation that shifted my paradigm. It shifted the way that I see and do things. Absolutely. And then after that, when I started listening to Alan Watts, it all made sense. Every person that has ever been a philosopher, when they're talking, I understand now what they're saying. It's no longer a mystery to me. And it's almost as if I said it myself. And because I know it to be true so well, that when they're talking, it's almost like I know exactly what they were going to say before they say it.
The words tend to gravitate towards you a bit better, is the
Yes.
is the way I see it, because I've tried to get a lot of people just to listen to, Akira the Don, just because of, he's like there's so many different people that he's done talks with. Well, he's taken samples of, even like Stan Lee and Elon Musk, but the some of the best ones are Alan Watts, and I've tried to get certain people to listen to them. They think some of it's a bit sad. Like their take from it is. It's very strange where someone can take something that's meant to be very, it makes you really think about yourself and what's going on in your own life, but not in a sad way. It makes you literally want to develop yourself better, but just because of the way he puts things into perspective. It's not, I don't know. Excuse me, my throat today. Jesus Christ. This is like terrible. This is the worst my throat's ever been. I need some fisherman's friends. But he just, but just the way he puts everything into perspective. But I couldn't imagine how anyone would take anything sad and negative from it when it's like so positive and uplifting, and it makes you physically want to do stuff. You know, I listen to a lot of it when I'm working out. I do a tiny bit of meditating, but not as much as what I used to.
Well, the reason why people get the reason why you might get sad listening to Alan Watts is because he's taking what you know to be true and telling you that it's not real. And for some people, if you're not ready to hear that, if you're not ready to hear that even your identity, who you think you are, is not real, that can be challenging and upsetting to people, especially if they're not ready to hear it.
I mean, it sounds a bit stupid. I mean, I'm pretty empathetic, but
yeah.
I don't really think about. I've never really thought about why they've. I didn't really ask, to be honest, either. I just was like, okay, and I've been contemplating. I mean, this was like last week, and I've been sort of, mulling the ideas around in my head, but I've been busy and I've not really got any conclusions or asked the person. So that's actually a really good take and makes quite a lot of sense. What made you get into meditating?
Well, when I got out of the military, I was dealing with PTSD and I was angry. And on top of it, I was doing a lot of steroids. Okay. And I was just an angry person. And I would get into fights with everybody around me at work, at home. And then I finally had a moment of clarity where I was like, okay, why am I so angry? Right? Like, I know that I've got war stuff going on that's got me, hyped up.
Were these steroids, were the steroids because of the military or after?
Both.
I've done them myself, so that's my only reason for asking. It's just a personal question because I do suffer with PTSD myself, but not from. Yeah. I've never been in the military. I've got my own reasons, but I've also been on roids at points, and I've had some of the juice, so I didn't know if that was because of a military reason and just wanted to be better, or just from after you leave and go, okay, things are a bit more different now, and I need to keep the charge and the adrenaline and the testosterone, or
both. Yeah, it was both. I wanted to be a GI Joe. And then when I was done being a GI Joe, I was like, well, now I want to be a bodybuilder, right? And now I'm out of the military and I can do what I want, eat what I want. I'm going to do that. And it was just a personality change, right? I was wearing a mask. I went from wearing one mask to another mask. And what really happened is that I realized that that's what I was doing. I realized that I was wearing a mask. And then when I finally hit rock bottom and I started asking myself, like, why am I getting angry all the time? I had to counter that with, okay, I keep getting angry, so I need to do some things that make me happy. So then I started asking myself, well, what makes me happy? And that is a very fascinating question, because you say, well, going to the beach makes me happy. But then you ask yourself, but why does it make me happy? Like, where does that even come from? And then you realize that too is just imaginary. You might like the beach because it's beautiful or whatever, but you don't really know, right? Just the same way that why is your favorite color red or green? Because of something you saw when you were little and you just liked it. But it's nothing more than that. Our problem, why people are fundamentally sad today, is because they hang on to beliefs that are imaginary to begin with. And that's what makes people sad.
Well, I know a lot of people that can't ever let go of the past. I mean, I've still got a lot of bullshit in my past, and it's difficult to get rid of. But there's a difference between thinking about it daily and like, hey, that 4 years ago, okay, that's cool, in terms of the past. Or but what is your favorite color?
My favorite color is green.
Yeah, mine too. No,
I have no idea.
It's strange. I like to tell myself the reason. I mean, I smoke cannabis a lot. I like to tell myself that maybe there's that sort of, I don't know. I mean, I smoke a lot of. I see it quite a lot. And it's a pleasant color, green.
That's a reasonable thought. At least you have a way to connect it, and that could be true.
Have you got no sort of reason at all?
Not at least for that. Something here. I'll tell you something interesting. Since this has been happening to my life, I've had a lot of very weird and abnormal things happen to me after becoming like self-realized. And one of the things that happens, and then this is where you can kind of get into like manifestation. People talk about that a lot. a lot of times when I'm deep in thought, or if I'm wondering about something or being philosophical, I'll see my favorite color, which is like lime green, not just green, lime green. And
Okay.
I'll see it in the most random places. And here's one really interesting time that it happened. I was at work and I was deep in contemplation about the universe. And when I needed an answer the most, right in front of my work, a lime green Camaro limousine pulls up and
Huh.
parks in front. And the irony behind that is because I also used to own a Camaro. So the fact that it was lime green and this big limousine, ridiculous looking car pulls up in front, it was a to me, right? To me, for me, it was a message from the universe. Like, you're thinking too much.
Do you believe in
What
like
you
the laws of attraction, stuff like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if it's not something magical, right? The fact of you putting your brain effort towards something and practicing and getting repetitive into thinking that you need something or want something, of course that's going to bring,
Oh
even
yeah.
whether it's magic or not, like, it has power. It just depends on how you want to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally agree because you can sit there, you know, believing in it, but also doing it at the same time in small integers. And then you're like, oh man, this is actually like the universe is giving me some dividends back. And it's not the case. It's just you're actually working and putting in the effort and manifesting it
Right.
yourself subconsciously without even realizing. Even in terms of
Right.
like podcasting, a lot of people podcast at the minute, and a lot of people do it for money. Again, a lot of people's favorite color is green because of money.
Yeah.
In the color psychology world.
There you
Um,
go.
but people do it for their own reasons or for a hobby. I personally do it for a hobby, and I try and do it as much as I can because I like to talk to everybody. I think it's pretty fun. But in doing so, it's like, I'm getting some numbers, and I'm like, am I doing this, or is it just because of the work?
Right.
It's the same. You can apply it to anything. It's just I'm just putting in the work. Like
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
it's not the world. The world doesn't know me shit. It's just me working my bollocks off for the first time in X amount of years. Wow,
Definitely.
about 6 years. I used to be a warehouse manager, and shit didn't really go well.
Were you happy when you were doing that?
Oh God, no.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Jesus. Health and
That's
sa-
something.
health and safety all the time, and Jesus, everyone having accidents, risk assessments, pain in the ass.
This is a concept that I am trying to work with people on right now. Um, this is kind of where my work is going to right now, which is, let's talk about the Matrix, right? The movie The
Yeah, yeah,
Matrix.
yeah, yeah. It's
Take
funny
it to,
because I just watched them back to back several
there you
days
go,
ago.
right?
Very fresh.
Take the machines out of it, take the goofy machines out of it, take the, being in a bathtub of gel out of it. The Matrix is you doing your job, your 9 to 5 job every day, and collecting money for something that you're going to do in the future to buy resources and have food and all of that.
Yeah,
When
in the
you say it
context of
like
it,
that, yeah,
makes
it's
absolute sense to me.
bullshit.
I
it,
mean,
it's
all you've got to do is turn those robots into corporations,
exactly.
and the us in the goo is just us traipsing through life essentially in a
Yeah.
fucked up way.
Yeah.
We're stuck in this sort of gooey, messy pit that we're never going to really get out from unless someone lets us out.
That's right.
If that
Well,
makes sense.
you let yourself out.
Well, you
Now,
can. You also can do that. That's
the
very true.
truth is that we can't really, at this point, we can't do anything about it. We're in it, right? Whether you're in it and you're asleep is one thing, but if you're in it and awake, there's not much that you can do, because no matter where you go, no matter where you try to run to, you're going to have to deal with that. It's not there aren't that many people that just run away, go be hermits in the woods, and they live, content, happy lives. So for me, I have to do this and I have to live this way.
Well, this is something I was going to get onto. You've already
Go
just
ahead. Yeah.
answered. You already just answered one of my questions, which was I was going to say, obviously, because of your the name of your radio podcast, which is obviously the Hermit, and and it's very close to your last name, obviously Harman, Hermit. I assumed that you were somewhere in the middle of the woods, which would be my ultimate goal one day. And I
Only
was,
in my mind.
oh, you're not physically?
No, I live in
Oh,
downtown Nashville, Tennessee.
oh, okay.
The Hermit is, if you've ever looked into tarot cards, the Hermit is a card, and the Hermit is somebody
Okay.
that recluses themselves to learn deep knowledge. And then when their time is up, when the deep knowledge time is over with, they come back to society to share the wisdom that they have. And that's where that came from. Now, I don't necessarily believe in like tarot cards, but I did like the idea of that because that's how it felt for me. I After the military, I had this crazy spiritual experience, and the meditation and all of it. It just it turned me on. It turned me on, and I never turned back off again. And the only thing I really care about these days is talking to people and helping them nurture that part of themselves too.
I mean, I used to teach children like learning and shit like that. Well, outdoor activities.
Yeah.
Um, it's butchering my own life. um, it's been a long day. That's all I was saying. But one of the joys is just talking to people. Is you get so many different aspects of people's lives, and from all around, especially with just podcasting and just talking like me and you now. We're on different sides of the pond, and your outlook's different to mine, but we share some same views. Which is
Definitely.
kind of very strange in a way. Um, when you had this like revelation, obviously during this meditative period, what was it like? How did you realize that you had it? Because I mean, I've had moments, but it's not been during meditation. It's kind of been on the back end of drug burns.
Yeah.
I'm an ex fiend, I, but I only smoke cannabis and do the occasional mushrooms now. I used to do it. I used to do a hell of a lot, but it was after those shitty, crazy moments that I'd have weird revelations, and uh, you know, meditating's almost on that same sort of frequency with psychedelics in a way.
Absolutely. Because it's about your brain. It's about your brain and like what because it's kind of like a radio, right? Your brain is a radio and it's a
Oh
receiver.
yeah, it's all frequencies.
Exactly. And so we're changing frequencies. For me, that's possibly one of the outcomes that happened to me is maybe I just changed my frequency a little bit and I'm operating on a different level now, whatever it is. The one thing that I can say too is I now have a level of self-awareness that was not before. Like I really the this happened a couple years ago. Really before that, I don't really remember being like consciously awake. Like it
Okay.
was almost like somebody else was driving me and I was just sitting along for the ride.
Yeah, yeah,
But
using
then
the
one
using the
day,
back seat. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but now I'm awake. I'm the one driving the car now all of a sudden. And it's weird because it happens so quick, but it happens slow and gradual at the same time. And for me, a big chunk of this happened right at the beginning of the pandemic. And then I was going through this crazy awakening and I was trapped in my house for months and I had no place to go and no place to be other than in my own head. And then something magical happened.
That's kind of crazy. I mean, some people have got a lot of shit out of COVID. Some
Yeah.
people have come out of the back end of it thriving. Podcasters, I think, are doing very well.
Yeah, definitely.
There seems to be more podcasters than anybody else in the world right now. I think the number's like 2 million or something, like
Yeah.
fucking preposterous number. Um, how long was you serving for?
I was in for 8 years.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, again, I give you my respect for that. I did before the show, and I wanted to get back round to saying, that's 8 years is a very long chunk of life,
Yeah.
to be serving for your country. So, and I'm in the UK, but it's you serve your country, and my hats off to you, sir. It's
Thank you.
I think my nephew, he's joining the Marines. Well, he's in the Marines. Uh, so I wanted to as a child, but I've got like disabilities that have only just started kicking in like the last 6 years, and I was going to, but they wouldn't let me in. So I was like, ah, fuck it, I'll just work my balls off in the warehouse, and then that didn't work. Going back round as a little callback there. Um, when you meditate, do you listen to music or do you just go full silence? Um, some
I've
people have different experiences and find it trickier to have complete silence.
Yeah, I've experimented with both. When I was really first started getting into meditating, I even tried like binaural beats and all kinds of different things. Um, I meditate a little bit unique compared to like most people. Like a lot of people like those guided meditations. I don't really, because I need to just be me, and I need quiet. Uh, so sometimes what I'll do is I'll just put the headphones on with no music at all, just the headphones, so that it keeps the
Yeah,
noise.
yeah, yeah.
Other times I like nature sounds. One I've been listening to lately is like the desert at night, and it's
Ooh.
just all you can hear is the wind blowing, and that's perfect for me because that feels like the universe is talking to me that way. The wind, you know what I mean? Like I know
Yeah,
it sounds
yeah.
probably a little woo woo, but it's just
Not
nice
really.
because that's the only voice there is that one, and it gives me room to expand myself, that nothingness, because that's my goal for meditation, is to reduce myself to nothing, where I'm not thinking about anything, right? You can't stop yourself from thinking, but you can reduce the amount of overthinking you do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not worried about what's outside of me. I'm not worried about anything else. I'm only worried about reducing myself until there's nothing.
I mean, I talk about it all the time. I call it overspill. It's like you're just
Mm,
taking in so much
yeah,
shit. And then
yeah,
most of the time, if you're a podcaster, you're regurgitating some of it, and then you're saying it again and again, and then it's almost you create your own narrative with it, like
absolutely.
in a stupid way. It's a habit I'm trying to not do myself. Is not say the same topics on this, you know. But it's a tricky one. When um, when you go into these like meditative states, do you ever have like hallucinogenic out of body experiences? And because I know even that can it's a practice and it takes a lot of effort and willpower, so to speak, just to block everything out.
I've had a few times where some pretty wild stuff has happened, which is one of the reasons that I've had this shift, is because I've seen things outside of my body that it shouldn't make sense. It shouldn't happen, but it did happen, and I can't unsee it. And there was a handful of times where I left my body and went somewhere else, and I can't explain it, but I was there. And there was one time where I came out. When I came out, I had that's pretty much when it changed. I had a deeper sense of knowledge and wisdom that I didn't have before, and then that level of self awareness was starting to awake in me. And that's, yeah, absolutely. It doesn't happen often. Usually, it's just I just meditate. Like those times when it happened, it was because I was meditating for like an hour and just really going deep. And now I don't need that as much, right? Like when I'm trying to just to become nothing, it takes really only about 10 minutes for me. But I think about it all the time. I think about trying to go back and do that again, but it's just one of those things. Like it happens when it's supposed to happen.
You get like sensory chambers in America. You ever tried one of them? I mean, that must
I
be
want to. I haven't
really
had a
good for.
chance, but I want to. Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to try one just to. I practically live with headphones on, uh, whether it's just podcasting or music or some films, whatever it is. So I'd probably struggle to to go into a sensory. I think I'd lose. I think I'd go insane. Um,
Yeah.
I, I'm always overthinking everything. I pretty much have to have these on.
Yeah. I feel that.
So even when I meditate, what got me into meditation, which was again, I used to meditate when I was coming out the back end of like some stupid fucked up drugs like MCAT, which is essentially like bath salts, and that's the term in the US. It's bath salts.
Okay. Yeah.
Over over here, it's called MCAT,
Okay.
and I was like back end month to month to month, getting crazy fucked up, mixing it with liquor and smoking, and when I'd stop that because it was fucking me up. And when I stopped that, I had to literally retrain my brain, and I did that with like neuro linguistic programming.
Okay.
Have
Yeah.
you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
It's Darren Brown does a lot of it, where it's just essentially you're just subliminally you just imprinting like maybe like colors with a phrase or whatever, and just doing it over and over again subtly to change your way of thinking. That's just one poor example. There's like really great examples of it. But I was used to listen to a guy who produced tons, and he was apparently like a fucked up dude. I found out years later, and he made some people like kill themselves or some weird shit. Didn't know that at the
Yeah.
time. But I was sort of listened to him and like trained myself to then shut down at the this was many, many years ago. But I used like neurolinguistic programming to sort of get into meditating and to sort of shut my brain down and tell myself that, we need to close off, and just through like I used to do it through thinking of like a number, and then I'd associate that with a thought, and then I'd trigger it with something else, and I'd then do it over and over and over again, just to make sure it cut off this negativity. It was a very long, dueling process. It was pretty shit, but it's almost what got me into meditation. That and peyote, that's what got me into it.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Fascinating.
you ever tried any? Well, obviously you tried like steroids, but have you ever tried any like hallucinogens while you've been meditating?
Yeah, I've tried. Well, I've never done them while meditating, but I've done mushrooms, and usually the mushroom experience is so good that I don't need to meditate. I feel like I'm in a constant state of meditation. And I've always only done it a handful of times, and each time it was like a microdose, but it was perfect. It was exactly what
Okay.
I needed. Yeah, and I think that those are going to be helpful tools in the future with reducing trauma and depression and anxiety for sure.
Well, there's a lot of well, people are heavily heavily invested in mushroom companies just because of the tech advances.
Right.
Microdosing. I wish they could legalize it here in the UK because it would be perfect. It's just big pharma, you
Right.
know. These 50 million different types of pills that could all be treated with mushrooms. Well, it's a numbers game, isn't it? How can we
That's
make
right.
more money? Which kind of sucks.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a fundamental human problem. We focus and we're fixated on that. It goes back to the conversation about the Matrix, right? Like the reason it works is because the people who are happy, like who are getting what they want, what they need, are at the top, while they use the people at the bottom to get what they need and what they want.
Which
Eventually,
pill?
it's
Sorry, carry on.
no, which eventually is going to collapse on itself. People are waking up to this reality every day. Every hour, people are realizing like how dumb things are, that we do this and we listen to these people. They're not much better than we are. You know what I mean? Like all of these politicians we put our trust in, they're like low key criminals. And like, now that the internet is around, people can't escape their dirt.
There's
And
a.
how
Have you seen the recent meme about Joe Biden pinching the young girl years and years ago?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah,
Yeah,
that's like a
it's
reoccurring thing here.
memes. I think they're going to crumble politicians uh, severely. Have you heard much about the John McAfee thing?
Yeah, I have. And honestly, that whole thing to me is just like so out. It's so crazy in your face. I mean, he literally got right a tattoo saying if I'm dead, I didn't do it, And it's just like, but here's the thing though. Just like with Epstein, right? A lot of people are like Epstein didn't kill himself. I mean, like if you were to take a poll of the world,
Yeah.
the balance would be very in
This
one
the
favor.
census would be,
Yes.
I'd put all my chips on it. I'd put all my money,
Absolutely.
everything,
Me too.
all my
And
crypto. I'd bet my house, everything
all of it.
if I had
And
one.
it's that, but that's how in your face it is, right? Nobody
Yeah.
cares. Like nobody can do anything about it. And it's almost in your face on purpose, right? Because who cares? Who's going to do anything
Well,
about it?
obviously, the thing today is he's got that dead man switch
Yeah,
for that
I've heard about that.
31 tegabytes of. Well, we don't know. Well, that was meant to have gone off several hours ago. Now, I've had no. I've been pretty tuned into it. There's been nothing so far as to where all of this information has gone, which I think it's going to go to torrents, like the old pirate bays and shit like that. Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
I think it'll be released under some weird, wacky shit. I was listening to. Are you a fan of Alex Jones, Infowars? I
A
ask this
fan,
every guest. It doesn't
a,
matter what your answer is.
a fan. I don't know that I would say a fan, but I will say, here's what I will say about Alex Jones. Alex Jones talked about Jeffrey Epstein in the early 2000s. He
Yeah.
called Epstein out in the early 2000s, and he was right about that. I'm not saying he's right about everything, but he was definitely right about Epstein, and that's
Yeah.
something that people need to pay attention to.
I'm not saying that he's right about everything, but he called that out years ago.
Absolutely.
I was watching. Fucking hell. I was watching InfoWars about 2 days ago. Or was it yesterday? Might have even been. Yes, it was. It was yesterday. And he was talking about some weird cyber attack that happened, and loads of these servers had gone down. And in my weird conspiracy head, I was like, well, that John McAfee thing's going down tomorrow. Are they shutting that switch off and getting in there and doing some high-tech wizardry? Because it kind of needs to happen. I think
Yeah.
the world would crumble if some of that information could be about the Hollywood elite and about anything. I mean, it might not be. Imagine if it's all one big practical joke, and it's like 31 terabytes of old blockbuster films, like the
Yeah.
oh badly dubbed and crap copies. Like, you don't know.
You don't know.
Could have all the alien information that the Pentagon didn't release and the White
Yeah.
House didn't release. And you got any thoughts on aliens?
Yeah. I think it's ludicrous at this point to think that there's not something, right? Like, and it's not even just something, right? Like, I'm not even one of those people that's like, well, yeah, there's other organisms that exist on other planets. No, there's no way in this infinite universe after universe after universe that there, and space and time, right? Because between here and other places in space, time is different.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're talking about in another place, it could
That's
be
a very
billions.
good point.
Yeah, billions of years, either in the past or in the future. There's no way that there's not something that exists. I think what's more likely is that probably both. I think that there's aliens or extraterrestrials and things from other dimensions, right? We know that other dimensions exist. We are working on being able to try and to communicate with other realities, but really we're talking about split realities, which could also be different dimensions. I'm not a scientist, so I couldn't get super in depth, but
there's a lot of
it's complex.
quantum shit going down with that as well that
Right.
they can't explain it.
But it's not, dude. I just saw UFOs in Nashville a couple days ago. And I grabbed my stepson to watch. Like, now who knows what that is? And that's exactly what I told him. He's like, "What do you think that is?" And I said, "I don't know."
There's a lot going on over the States right now.
Yeah.
The problem is since they was releasing them files, they've now gone, well, China has this sort of
Exactly.
thing, and we've just patented ours. And oh, by the way, we've got drone underwater technology coming out soon. And is it all just them testing it this whole time? It's where it's like cover up after cover up. It's just the top. You know, the government aren't stupid. They're going to release information when they need to. Everything's all fucking planned. It's impossible for it to not be all planned. You know? Some people believe in fate. I'm like, no. You could probably put fate down to it's in a lot of other people's hands. You know, you could be a comedian and get cancelled tomorrow.
Absolutely.
You could do it. You could be a movie star and say the wrong words and fuck up your career. Be a producer, make a terrible film. It doesn't matter what it is. You could be laid off from your job. It doesn't make a difference.
Does not matter.
It's never really in your hands. So that's where you go, who controls all the information? You know, the Vatican has most of it. Let's be real. They have a hell of a lot of information.
Yeah. I mean, just even the library, right? Like, how is it that for their library, you're not allowed to research anything after 1947, and the only way you can go there is by request and by invitation, and you can only look at 3 books at a time, and each time is like what you're talking about. So, and you can't look for anything that you don't already know exists.
Yeah.
So you can't go there and peruse. You have to know what you're looking for before you get there. And I think that's wrong. If they have that much knowledge, information, what gives them the right? Where did they get the right to keep that information from us? That should be public information, and any person should be able to research. Now, I get it. Some of that stuff's very old and you need to protect it. Rightfully so, but digitize it.
Yeah.
digitize all of it so that people can look up on your archive and read what they want to read. The only reason that you wouldn't do that is if there's something you don't want somebody to see.
Well, I think most of it is history that has been erased. A lot of probably fucked up genocides over, thousands and thousands of years. And let's face it, they were always the victor. Doesn't matter what it boiled down to. Fucking Rome. Let's be real. Where did it come from? The goddamn Romans. They took everything, didn't they? They invaded Britain, Egypt, fucking Library of Alexandria was because of the Romans.
Destroyed it.
It was an accident apparently, but again, they can base all information, set fire to the naval yard, and just happened to be too close. Yeah,
right.
but we're humans, aren't we? We know what we're doing. We're not fucking stupid. Like, we wouldn't go, well, that library's there. We best be careful, boys. It's fucked up. But if you think about that, that was thousands of years ago, and they had the information then. Maybe they didn't burn it. Maybe they took loads of scrolls and buggered off.
There you go.
All
That's
the
100%. That's like the Crusades, the Knights
same,
Templar.
same thing.
That's what they were doing. They were taking artifacts and they were stealing shit from the Middle East and taking it back to, wherever their headquarters was at the time.
Well, it was all under Rome.
That's right.
It was just obviously some of them were English knights and French knights, but they all stood under the same holy order.
That's right. Here's an interesting question since we're on that topic. You want to talk about a thought-provoking conspiracy. How is it that the Romans, who were the ones that persecuted Jesus, right? They hated him. How is it that they go from hating him and crucifying him to adopting his religion? How does that happen?
Well, I mean, I've never read the Bible. I've recently tried to get into it. I swear I don't want to regurgitate my own words. I need to read this shit because I want to stack it against some of my own semi-fucked up nonsense beliefs that are very nonsense, but I just want to put some facts over them just to make it more funnier and make it more appealing to the world. I'll get into them. But it is kind of crazy that a lot of their stories were based upon other stories. Noah, the Great Flood, prime example, I think they're just a bunch of thieves, to be honest. Storytellers and thieves.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way of saying it because that's what it's always come down to. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned Graham Hancock, and Graham Hancock is going to go down in history as one of the most genius people alive. And unfortunately, right now, not enough people give him credit. But think about his what he's saying. Right?
Yeah.
Think about the idea of an ancient civilization that we don't know about that was way more advanced than we give them credit for. Things like Göbekli Tepe, Machu Picchu,
the ocean.
The ocean, yeah.
Tons of stuff that's under there that we can't. It's just off coastline as well, a few miles. But you look at 12,000 years ago, it was there. Some in China, there's some in Spain.
That's right.
A lot off the Isle of Sicily, I think. I did have a whole show I was going to do about it. I'm a big fan of it. I think we've been doing this for probably 100,000 years at least. It's just devastation and apocalypse.
That's right.
Fuck's going to survive after meteorites and huge floods? Telling me that's not going to wipe shit out? Maybe that's why Göbekli Tepe was fucking buried, because they knew that it was going to get a cataclysmic. Like, it was going to get ruined. It was going to get fucked up. They knew it from day one.
That's an interesting point that I've never actually considered because nobody has said that. I knew that Göbekli Tepe was purposely buried, but you just said a really fascinating point. Maybe they buried it to keep it from being destroyed, which is fascinating. And think about the pyramids, right? I talk about the pyramids a lot with people I know.
Oh, I do.
And the pyramids are an enigma, absolute enigma. I'd love to have any archaeologist or scientist fucking explain that to me and not lie to me about it because shit's, it's not right. And it's not finished. It's not finished either, right? They stopped in the middle of production. Why? What happened?
Well, I believe that it was you. The thing is, with a structure that big, again, they knew it was going to stand. It'd have to stand. The shape of it would purposely bounce off water. You know, we was like hunter-gatherers. We just walked and, like we do now, we investigate shit. Telling me we didn't investigate anything back in the day? We didn't go walking and go, whoa, that's a big hole. The fuck caused that? And then news travels. Because we go, look at this fucking, word of mouth. History is years and years ago. Who knows? That's what we did. We sent scouts with information. That was their job. Yeah. Telling me that didn't happen? Well, it did. How long was that going on for?
True.
Who knows? But one of my big things was there's a lot of weird, like, genetic stuff going on now. And I've got a weird conspiracy theory that we were fucked around with ourselves, and then all the shit from like myths and legends, were also creations of the gods.
Yeah, sure.
It was just they were fucking around. It was like, hey, we've got these people. Let's see what happens if we cross these fucking fish and this guy and whatever. And it was just genetics. We're doing it now with like goats and pigs and that monkey, and we're doing all sorts of shit. So you're telling me that, and people do kind of believe it now. A lot of people believe it was fucked around with. There's, the fact that our brain size doubled. There's no proof. They can't prove that yet. So I think that again, maybe when that happened, we were like we were now. We've always been like we were. We wasn't just stupid, but we've just been fucked up over and over again, and due to the loss of people, we've just had to struggle and strive, and we've forgot things. We're more worried about survival. We can't build fucking skyscrapers again and huge pyramids. First of all, we haven't got the manpower. We haven't got the strength. That's my belief. But I also believe that we were fighting these things, like the stories of dragons. I think maybe there was a couple of big dinosaurs left over, like pterodactyls, that was in caves. We went in caves, so we survived. Maybe some of them big birds did. And then we come out, and then, we're settling down, and, the sky is then clearing. And then out come the big fuck off birds, and we're like, holy shit, what is that thing? And then we just forgot. We didn't know what it was. And then we had to slay them because it was killing our kids. Big fuck off birds, and, it's dragons.
The Bible talks about giants.
Yeah, I believe there was giants.
That's in the Bible.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? How many people have read the Bible and that just goes right over their head?
This is why I want to read it, because there's tons and tons of shit in there, and I can't even really talk about it because I don't know. But I want to really read it, but then there's so many different versions, and then there's all these scriptures, and the only one that I've about got into is like the Book of Enoch. It's about the only one, and that's only because it comes up in conspiracies and ancient aliens and fucking you name it, someone did a talk on it as well. Might have even been Graham Hancock, don't know. There's a few. Another cool one's Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
he's another very inspirational, legitimate, critical thinker that makes you just go, this makes sense completely.
Yeah, there's something to it. And when you look at, it's all connected. All these occults, right? Like the Freemasons, all of that. What's that all about? That gets into Gnosticism, right? They believed in Gnosticism and Gnostic texts. When we're talking about like the Nag Hammadi and old, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, those, I don't know why they're not in the Bible, but they're canonized to be different because they didn't find them together. But somebody took the time and effort to bury them in jars in the sand somewhere so somebody would find them.
Well, it's in a cave.
Right, exactly. In a cave somewhere.
Some young shepherd's son threw a stone. Just randomly chucking stones and heard a glass smash and they thought it was treasure. And it turns out, it was one of the greatest finds of mankind. Just hidden away in some caves.
There's so much esoteric knowledge in those, because when you read them, it's like Alan Watts. When you read something from Alan Watts, it's very dense and you're kind of like, I don't know if I understand 100% what it's saying. The same thing can be said about the Dead Sea Scrolls, because when you listen to them, it's very face value, much like the Bible. But what you come to find is that there are messages within the words. It is like a mental Rubik's Cube, and you hear it. Or like, have you ever heard of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
The whole theory behind that is that each time you listen to it, it's going to sound different and you're going to get something different each time you hear it. It's the same way, because these words were designed to trigger something in your brain, whether you understand them or not. If you read it over and over and over again, eventually there's going to be something that comes from it.
Well, this is what all like the Nazis were looking for. They had like an occult secret society that was looking for all these crazy artifacts, and again, they was looking. Spoke about it a couple of shows ago, and that was another one of their prime things. What, this is where conspiracies and shit come into play, because you go, well, if it's all bullshit, why were so many people looking for it? If it's that much,
Hitler so invested in it.
same for like the Holy Grail. He was looking for all of that shit, the Spear of Destiny and all that shit. He was looking for all of it. Which is wild that someone that was literally I mean, I don't want to beg him up, but he was the greatest military dictator of all time. That is a fact. You can hate the guy, which is, we all hate Adolf Hitler, but from a military standpoint, you have to go, shit, you can't. I mean, he also had the inner circle giving him stuff, but he gave the orders. It doesn't matter how much information you're being given. He gave the orders and the commands. But the fact that he was one of the greatest fucking military dictators, and he was out looking for artifacts of mystical natures, and it's so bizarre.
It is bizarre. And I've thought the same thing, and I wanted to know the same answers. And it comes down to Atlantis. That's one of the things that it comes back to, right? And Graham Hancock talks about this too. And when people hear Atlantis, they think of the Disney movie that came out in like the early 2000s, right? Well, think about that. That's a little on purpose too. Because if you
forgot about that one.
If you want to take a critical look at Atlantis, you're only going to get met with laughing, because they're like, oh, isn't it that Disney movie, right? But the theory of Atlantis came all the way from Plato. Plato got it from his uncle, who got it from the Egyptians, and the time basis for that is 12,000 years ago.
Yep. Well, this is where I think it was the exact same lecture. To be honest, I think it was Graham Hancock's lecture. Hold on. It's funny because where they always put Atlantis, they thought it was like now in the Sahara,
right?
Which was kind of strange. There's so many little theories about where it actually was, but obviously Plato was the first person to wrote. Well, it's the first person that wrote about it, and you can't really argue with the guy because
he didn't say it was fictional.
No, but he also mentioned places like Lemuria and shit like that, and
that's right.
A lot of other places where people go, well, even people. A lot of people don't even know fucking about Lemuria. It's even more fictional, but that's pretty much apparently where Antarctica is, so to speak. I think that's where he put it to. You got any thoughts on Antarctica? Because that's a weird place. Can't fly over it. No one can own it. There's a big, massive, huge black hole in the middle of it, where Hollow Earth might be.
I don't know, man. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories about it. There's Operation High Jump with Admiral Byrd.
Yes, someone fucking heard of him. I've asked about 5 people so far. Okay,
bizarre.
We'll get into it.
Bizarre.
Well, he went apparently into that hole. Obviously, communications were lost, and then the hole's that big that you could do a full turn in a plane and come back out, like a complete 180 maneuver. But he went down there and apparently met some people. They said they'd been here for a very long time, and then obviously he sent a message, or they told him to give a message. I can't remember what the message was now, but obviously he reported it back, and since then there's been a lot of people there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I would love to know. I would love to know what is going on. And this is again my problem, right? Like people are waking up and they're starting to ask questions. For too long, as long as we have been a country, at least the United States, right? And then maybe even in the UK, people haven't had time to think.
No.
Everybody's been too busy working and doing shit until COVID. COVID slowed everything down and people were in their homes stuck with their thoughts. Now, not everybody's there yet. You know, a lot of people, when you try to talk to them, you're like, hey, you heard of this? No. Well, what do you think about this? I don't know. And it's like, well, why? And it's like, because I don't have time to think about that, man. I work all day. And when I'm done working, I just want to go sit at home and watch TV or do this or do this, you know? Did you read this book? No, I don't read books.
Ooh.
You know, it's like, okay, well, that's where we
See,
are.
the problem is, I always find that people that don't read are the ones that you shouldn't really ask the questions to in the first place.
That's right.
Because I don't know, something's not quite there in terms of expanding their brain. It's just like they've got blinkers on all the time and they're in one lane.
It's because
Uh,
they're scared. They don't want to know, right? Because
yeah,
those are
maybe.
scary questions.
Hmm. Well, but the same people you can ask if they believe in ghosts, and they're like,
Mm,
"Yeah, I believe in ghosts.
yeah,
I
yeah.
believe
Because
in."
that's easier, though. You know, like that's been around a little bit longer. That's easier to deal with, you know, and
Yeah,
it's
I
less
guess.
scary, I guess,
Hmm.
you know?
But so kind of it. Aliens have too, you know?
And people are coming around, but there are
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, I was literally at work talking to somebody about it and they laughed at me. I was like, you're laughing at me? I was like, listen, the joke's on you because like it's been in the news now for the last 5 years on a regular
Oh,
basis. I
easily.
mean, it's you're gonna find out in your lifetime. And if you think it's a joke, then you're gonna find out that you're the joke. You're gonna find out that what you thought again, it's like I said at the beginning of this thing, what you think is real is not real and reality is a lot different than what you believe it to be.
Well, I was listening to, again, going back to Alex Jones, I was listening to his show yesterday and he was mentioning some weird nanotechnology
Mm.
that could control animals. And I was like, huh, the fuck is this? Because anything that's wild like that, I have to look into it. I'm like, I was outside smoking, just having a drink, and I was like, oh, let's watch a bit of info. And it was the second thing that came up, and immediately I was like, okay, this is really interesting. Started Googling it, and it's been a ongoing thing since like 2007.
Yeah.
Like the research started what would now be, 14 years ago. And it's like, huh, telling me they didn't make advances like that in 14 years? A long
Absolutely.
time. You can accomplish quite a lot in 5 years if you put your mind to it. So almost triple that. Whole bunch of people. Hmm. But that's
Unlimited money and resources.
yeah. Well, think of that. Imagine like nanotechnology that you control animals with. What the fuck
Yeah.
does that even? The hell does that even mean? Well, I could just put it in a bat and like make him fly around the room with my fucking hand or something. I don't know. It's like it's like magic. It's
Yeah.
wild. I don't even know what the capabilities are. It barely went into
Infinite.
it.
Infinite.
Barely went into it. You can't even. I could barely wrap my head around it. Even reading through it, I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "This is like magic. It's literally like magic." Same way in which all these UFOs are coming in and going into the ocean, and we've got basic propulsion systems supposedly. It's like magic. We don't
It
know.
is. Yeah.
I think a lot of stuff is just. I think the whole of history has just been overwritten. Just
It's
because
wrong.
yeah, I think a lot of it has. Even in terms of like me growing up in school, we got taught some shit, but nowadays most of it's been debunked. The only thing that was true was science and maths. History turned out to be mostly fucking wrong because it was well, some of it was wrong, some of it was right, but it was written one-sided. It was written in terms of a fat king and
Yeah.
doing what he wanted to do or whatever. It's kind of fucked up. What's it? Obviously, you're in like Tennessee.
Yeah.
What's it like there at the minute with COVID and lockdowns and?
It's Tennessee is a little bit better than other places in the country. It's not as crazy as it was, but the Delta variant thing's got people scared, and the questions running around like, are we going to go back into lockdown again? Are we going to have to do this and that? And who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, so it's just. I mean, we just had Freedom Day.
Yeah, I saw that.
For the second time, by the way, we was going to
Yeah.
have it. Well, we was going to have it, but turns out we wasn't allowed to. People still did shit anyway. Made no difference. But there's still talks again, and we're like, fuck, it's not going to happen. Business is going to crumble. They already have.
They already are. Yeah.
You know, well, I mean, I walk through my local city, and it's a mess. There's just board everything, even big chain stores boarded up because they just haven't been able to distribute like clothes or jewelry. Even though that's what's so fucked. They might have had online sales, but they've not been able to open up their business because it's just X amount of rent mostly.
Right. Yeah.
That handout only lasts so long.
Well, here in the United States, people that work like, low wage jobs, like working at like fast food restaurants, they're walking off the job. They're quitting in droves because they don't want to do it anymore. And, like that's just the beginning. That's only going to continue to happen. And people that their jobs are saying like, well, you're going to have to, we're going back to the office in 2 weeks. They're like, all right, cool. Well, that's my 2 weeks notice. Because there are plenty of jobs right now. There's an abundance of jobs, and there are so many people that can take those jobs that now it's finally the playing fields are being equaled out, because all of these regular businesses that have been cutting people short and not paying them properly and not giving them health care or anything like that, they're getting screwed now because those people are like, I know what I'm worth. I'm better than this. I'm going to go get a job, sit on my ass at my house and work from home and get paid, if not the same, maybe more.
Maybe more because no traveling.
That's right.
I have a friend that works from home. He does call center work. I was like, is it good pay? He was like, yeah, it's fucking brilliant. I'm like, really? I'm like, cold calling and shit? It's not quite cold calling. But he was like, yeah, I don't have to travel to the office. I don't have to do any of this. I'm like, sick. I'm like, what if you have to go back into the office? He's like, I'm probably going to change job.
Exactly.
Like, I'll look for something that will do the exact same. It's just easier. Just for transport costs. It's still extra money. You can put it aside. Even if it is like £30 a week or, well, in America, it'd be like fucking $50 or probably some excruciating amount more just while you're stuck in traffic with petrol. And, well, probably not in Tennessee. I don't think that. I'm pretty plugged into America, but I've never heard of any traffic problems in Tennessee.
I mean, well, here, you want to hear about this. It mainly just there's no police to monitor the freeways. I mean, people on a regular basis, I see them driving 100 miles an hour easy, just going in and out of traffic, like on the freeway, man, because there's no cops to pull them over. I can't even tell you the last time I saw a traffic stop, like a cop pull somebody over for speeding or whatever, and it happens all the time. If you're driving the speed limit, you need to be in the granny lane. You know what I mean? Which I get it, for some people like speed, but like here's the deal. If speed limit is 70 miles an hour, how much faster than that do you need to be going? Because if you're going 70 miles an hour on the freeways around here, you're going slow. That's crazy. That's crazy.
The new Tesla would be good for that then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
People are in Tennessee, they should get a fucking Tesla Plaid because that motherfucker's fast.
Yeah.
I don't even drive, but I want to drive just to drive and own one of them. That's my goal, is just to get one of them. I don't give a shit about anything else. If I can get one of those and just, it feels like a rocket and it's got some cool tech. Maybe I could do a podcast from there with the tech that's in there. It's probably got a fucking wicked advanced computer.
Yeah.
It's probably better than my own computer. I probably could. Just set it to podcast mode and it'd just do it all for me. It's got a big, huge panel. Do Zoom meetings. While in fucking badass. I wouldn't even have to do much. It'd be super silent as well. I don't even think it makes much noise internally.
Mm-mm.
What's your thoughts on Neuralink? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel because, like, obviously the idea of it is cool, but at what point are we pushing too far, right? Because I'm a spiritual person, and I think that the way we are is how we are supposed to be. I think evolution happens organically. I think that introducing this technology, it could help. It could take us to the next level. But I am more about. I mean, you know what? I say organic, but like that's not even
I
fucking
know,
true.
I
Like
know
our food's
people are
not
fucking
organic.
about. I was going to point out that people are like
Yeah.
pissing about with. Essentially, it's eugenics, really.
Yeah,
You
it
know?
really is. Your food has hormones and genetics in it.
Yeah.
The meat, the beef you eat, that's been pumped full of hormones and growth
Oh
hormone
yeah.
and shit. You know, so
Well,
technically you're not nobody really unless you grow your own vegetables and that's all you eat. Like you're not.
the steroid trenbolone came from well, it was
That's
a
right.
animal. They put it in. What did they use it for? I don't think it was pigs. But they put it in something to make them bigger.
That's
What
right.
was it? Might have been bulls.
I think it was
Um,
bowls, yeah.
I think it was bulls. But then people were like, "Hey, that shit's fucking crazy. Let's put it in us," and it works perfect with us. Well, it's for us. It's a cutter trend. It's a for some reason though on bulls it made them jacked, but
Yeah.
obviously bodybuilders it's a cutted steroid trend. Not that I'm a an advocate, but what did you take out of curiosity? 'Cause I was on tren,
Yeah.
Deca,
I tried
test.
yeah, all of that.
I did standard anabol, which was nap 50s. Uh, I think that was it. I think I did some 25 milligrams as well, possibly. I did a whole. I'm not sure I did something else as well. There might have been something else. I did a good run. I did a pretty good run. It was not bad, but I had to stop because the gym shut down. It was you can't really do a lot. I've got a few bits of training stuff here. You know, I've got some kettlebells. I've got mace bells. Resistance bands are pretty good.
Definitely.
Huge fan of resistance bands if you know how to work them properly.
Yeah, me too. I like using them on the equipment. Like pec deck or not, I'm sorry, not pec deck, like the upper incline chest press or the Smith machine, anything like that. Yeah, I ended up getting real smart about it. I had a professional coach at one time that was helping me get better, and um I tore my right pectoral muscle twice, and so like after the
Ah,
second time, I just like that's kind of what was like led to me to stop doing bodybuilding. I'm just like, man, I'm just ripping. I'm too strong for my body,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like I was just literally ripping things apart, throwing my back out. Like I just
Mine was
couldn't.
my shoulder. Do you know you've got
Mm,
like in your shoulder you've got like this small sac of like
yeah,
fluid. Can't remember what it's called now, but I'd done something to that, and it just even to the day, you know, if I'm doing a too much training, it just sort of gets a little bit bigger. I don't know what it's doing, but it shuts down pretty quick. You know, it's like, oh, fuck, that's back again. I need to
yeah,
lay off a little bit.
yeah, definitely.
But even resistance bands are pretty good for it. But it's just, you know, even then, if you're doing some deadlifting or, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Smith machine. A huge fan of that. It's I prefer to do that than just to do a standard chest press. I think that added resistance coming down helps. It helps quite a lot. I can't remember the other thing I did as well. I'm trying to think. There's a whole mess. I need to get back on it, but it's just time and effort. And was you doing jabs or pills?
Both. So,
Yeah, me too.
like test,
So,
Deca,
yeah,
all
yeah.
injectable, and then like anabolic wise, like Anavar and like shit, man, Anadrol, I think is what it was called. Anavar and Anadrol at
Yeah,
times,
yeah.
or sometimes D-ball. Like sometimes I had D-ball.
D-bol as well. That was the other one. Yeah, D-bol. That
Yeah,
was the 25 milligrams. Yeah, yeah. Compared to the 50s, which I think Anavar, I think they're the same name for the. I think they're called Napoleon 50s or some.
oh,
But
funny.
but people call them Nap 50s. Like I think that's what they are. Very strange conversation this one. First one to talk. No, it's good because it gets to for people to know me as well and about
Yeah,
my own history, and you know it's again a lot of good conversation, a lot of philosophy, some Roy talk. Let's get back to the pyramids though, because you seem to know a little bit about that.
Man, I could talk to you for hours about the pyramids because those things to me are the one thing that is existing on this earth that is a gateway to what we don't understand. Because the Great Pyramid of Giza, is one of the most mathematically correct buildings in the entire world. We could not replicate that today. I would love to meet somebody who could, but it's not
Oh
going
yeah,
to be done. It's
the
not.
di-
There's no
the di- the dimensions meet
way.
the speed of the dimensions are the same as the speed of light as well, which is very
That's right.
bizarre. There's so many, obviously the golden ratio and all that shit.
Absolutely. What I find ironic too is that like there are tours you can take out there, and even the guides that take you out there, they'll tell you, like, they're honest with you. They're like, yeah, this we don't know. And they're like, listen, if slaves built it like this, right, with chisels and hammers, they literally gave them like a chisel and a hammer, and they're like, all right, you try to turn this stone here into a block, right? Just try. And they will, and they're like, look at how exhausting and hard that is. And then not only that, but in 2013, the Harvard Institute released an article from a guy who went out to Egypt and lived there to do research. He said himself that slaves didn't do it. There's no evidence that slaves are the ones that build it.
Well, the Sphinx was carved out of rock.
That's right.
One solid piece of rock.
How? How's that
know?
even possible, right? Look at some of these, like in Petra, in Jordan and shit. Like there are buildings carved
the
into
circular
the sides of
caves.
mountains. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. That they're very they like very fucking symmetrical, and they're so ambient as well. They're made for certain frequencies of sound, which is. But there's three of them, wasn't there? There's like several of them next to each other,
Yes.
in one certain place, and obviously there was distinguishing. I think we've watched the same documentaries, and obviously they could tell the difference, and they put some like laser machine in there, and just the accuracy was it's insane. Like the way it was out, there was like an alcove. There was three different ones. One that had like a standard one room with another one that was built much later, and the older it went, the more harder it would have been to make, which was so fucked up. Like they was trying to replicate it, but they couldn't, which was bizarre. There was like literally next to each other three. I think there might have been four, might have 3 or 4, but they was some. But the one of them was just perfect to the point. It's impossible. How the fuck do you do that with no laser technology, with no what tool would you use?
You would need, and I'm glad
a
you
million.
said that.
You need a million
diamond
protractors.
blades.
Yeah, you need like a million protractors just to get fucking the compasses, all this shit. You need everything. Like it'd be impossible.
The thing about stone when you're cutting rock is you need whatever you're going to cut this rock with. Like let's say granite, for example, you have to have something harder than granite.
Yeah, you need diamonds.
Yeah, in granite. So, like, I mean, there are a number of cases in the Great Pyramid where there are stones, like really hard stones, that you could only have cut with a diamond blade, and a diamond blade wasn't created until the 19th century. So it doesn't make sense. There are perfectly cylindrical drilled holes.
Yeah,
things there. That's impossible.
Those holes are crazy as well. Not even that. It's like in the tombs as well. The big coffins that are made out of
granite sarcophagus.
Yeah. Like they're massive. They're huge.
They weigh 100 tons. The lid weighs 30 tons. The box itself weighs 70 tons.
So you got to make it in there.
Exactly. But like, who's doing that? Why would you do that? Why would you build these boxes and then build the pyramid around it?
12 or something. There's some like I think there's around 10. Well, think how many of them you've got to get in and carve off and then get rid of all the rubbish. Where the fuck's all the trash? Where's all these huge piles of black granite trash? Or not even that. Just there's tons. And I think where they got it from was like several hundred miles away as well. It was a ridiculous distance. Yeah, some ridiculous. Yeah.
For some of it, 500 miles.
How are you moving it? You can roll it on logs, which is that's
miles.
Well, it's it's preposterous, but however, historically, and I don't want to shout it out. Well, I can shout it out in a way. Vikings. You ever seen the TV show Vikings? Yeah. They did it was based upon a different act, but they copied a historical moment where essentially Well, they were sacking Paris in Vikings, whereas in real life they were sacking somewhere else a little bit down the river. Can't remember where it was. But they did that shit in real life. They just fucking put the trees down and put the boats going. Like, that was a historical moment. Obviously, doing that with stone is a bigger thing. It's not impossible, and it would take a hell of a lot of manpower and a hell of a lot of wood. But so repetitive, and I mean, think how long it would take to. I mean, if how big the stones are, you'd have to have at least a third of its size bigger, just to
Right.
make for allowances if you're fucked up. So they'd have to transport X amount of them over certain 100 miles, put them into the building or build around it, because that would make more sense. You know, you don't buy a massive, huge sofa not knowing it's going to get through your door. It's impossible.
Well, there's
You
not
know?
even any hieroglyphs explaining how it was built or who did it.
No.
The only person that
Well,
kind of takes kind of credit is, I believe it's King Tutankhamun, but like, there's still nothing specifically that says he
he
did it.
was. His sister was a greater ruler, apparently. You know
Right.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, his treasure, most of it, some of it was forgeries. There was crude hieroglyphs, like, imprinted over the old ones
That's right.
to say it was his. So some of his vast wealth didn't belong to him. It belonged. I can't remember his sister's name now, but it belonged to her, which is even more crazy. Even some of the big tombs were made for her, and
Yeah.
well, it's kind of. This is what I mean. It's a weird thing with history, because I learned about King Tut in school, and he was we had this great hoard of wealth, and then modern day turns out it wasn't his, and I'm like, why did you teach me that? Why did I learn that for 3 months or whatever it was, when I just watched in a documentary for half an hour that all of it, well, in a half an hour snippet, that all of it was a false. Why was and that happened years and years ago? They found that out. So why did I get? Why are we still getting taught that as a kid? Me.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. They knew about it years and years and years ago, like in the 70s or some shit like that, 80s. I was learning about it in the 90s. So why did they not change the textbooks and go, actually, it belonged to his sister. We made an error. It's
Yeah, it's
fucked up,
because
man.
it's too difficult. It's too difficult to change history. That's why Graham Hancock has such a hard time, right? Like, people already have this picture perfect idea that goes in a nice, perfectly square box of what history is, and
Mm.
anything that is conducive to changing that, anything that takes you out of the perfect bubble, it's too problematic. I mean, how about the time Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson were on Joe Rogan, and that one skeptic guy was there, right? That dude
Well,
showed up with
it was a three-way conversation, and then
yeah.
somebody else coming via Zoom, and they was trying to get somebody else in.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. That was
Yeah.
a brilliant debate.
But Joe
But it
Rogan
was
even called that guy out. He goes, dude, you didn't prepare. Like, you didn't bring anything. He's like, all you're doing is sitting here and telling them they're wrong, but they've got evidence. They've got
yeah.
200 slides with them. Where's your evidence? Where's your documentation? He's like, well,
It was
I don't have
so
to. It's
funny.
already what history is. And he's
Yeah.
like, that doesn't mean that it's right or accurate. He's like, you look like an asshole right now. You're sitting here telling these guys they're wrong, and you don't have anything to back it up.
It's so funny when Graham Hancock swears as well. Do you know, like, because just because he's such an intelligent bloke. I mean, I swear like a trooper, but because he's such an intelligent guy, and as a philosopher in a way, and a professor, and you just don't. He's an academic, and you don't expect him to swear. And when you do, it's more meaning. It
Yeah.
makes it so much more effective, because you go, he's not chatting shit, because he doesn't even talk like that on a daily basis. Whatever he believes in is very firm, just by the language that he's talking right now.
Yeah.
He's going to a level that he probably doesn't even want to get to. You know, and that if it was me in an argument, I wouldn't swear. I'd be as polite as I could,
Yeah.
because I know in modern day I swear a lot, and if I'm trying to make a point, probably not going to swear as much. I'll use it effectively, but he doesn't probably at all. And then when he does, it's boom, it's a bomb. And you go, But it was a very good such a good debate that was. It was hilarious. The guy that they pulled in on the Zoom, he just
Yeah, he was garbage. They're all garbage. They don't know what they're talking about. They want to protect what's theirs, right?
tenure as well, isn't it? That was
Yeah.
the other
Think
thing.
about it.
It's a
Anybody that's
strange
ever
one.
Anybody that's ever written a research paper or written a book or made a YouTube video about it, all of that, if Graham Hancock is right, all those people are now wrong, which means
Yeah.
all of those people made money or fame on lies, and now they're going to get called out. Or you know what I mean? Like, not even that's the worst case scenario, but that's what they're afraid of, right? They're afraid of being called a liar or saying that they somehow purposely made a mistake, and then they're going to lose their fame, right? That's what it really comes down to.
In that essence as well, it's like my teacher who was teaching me history. He would probably teach it for 30 years. He was a fairly old guy. So if you was to go up to him now in modern day and go, listen, everything was wrong. What the fuck's going on? He's going to go, no, firm believer, and it's not going to sink in whatsoever. And it's just, again, because you've done it for so many years that you're going to believe it. It's impossible not to.
Yeah.
And these professors, again, that are doing it even in America, I mean, some of them are probably even more than 30 years, Some of them are still like the age of fucking after retirement, and they're like, well, I'm still the dean of this university, holding on to that old fucking bullshit power. And they're not going to let the narrative through because it's just, why are they? It's too difficult. All they've taught for all them years means fuck all.
Especially because it's not even like Graham Hancock is like trying to change like some little things. Like he's basically saying all of history is wrong. You don't know what you're talking about, and the only thing we really know is within the last couple hundred years. But anything after a couple of hundred years ago, we don't know shit. We got it all wrong, especially when it comes to the Great Pyramids and the Egyptians and who they were. What about Atlantis and Lemuria?
There's a lake. There's a big lake under the Great Pyramid. That was known years and years ago as well, And they took, no water in the desert. Yeah, but there's a big fuck off lake that's under the Great Pyramid, still there to the day. You're telling me it didn't disappear or it didn't appear out of nowhere? It's been there the whole time. They had a source of water. Let's be real. Otherwise, they wouldn't have lived. If there was no water, yeah, the Nile was there, and dried up for a little while. Yeah, but they've got this big source of water that's fresh. It's fresh as fuck.
Yeah,
it's nuts. Where did that come from? Did they just build on top of it? How did they get so bizarre? Like, it's like you wouldn't go mining for water in a desert.
That's right.
You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't even know where to start. So how did they know to put it there? Or was there a lake and then they just filled loads of land on top of it? The same with like Göbekli Tepe. Maybe that was another kind of moment where they're like, hey, there's this big lake here, let's build on top of it. Let's keep it under there. Let's give it a bit of protection. And so I don't even know. Why isn't it dried up? It's a fucking desert. Jesus Christ. It's so hot. Why isn't it not evaporating and condensating and shit? There's got to be some free flow into there. This is, I don't know. Even my history lately gets so against the grain because I like to call bullshit on everything, but I like to make a good joke out of it.
It's good.
The Egyptians are definitely one of them.
Well, if you think that Plato's story about Atlantis is interesting, what's more interesting is what his uncle was told by the Egyptians. And what his uncle was told by these Egyptian priests was that their land, their ancient land, was built by the same people who built the Helena, or like where the Pillars of Hercules are.
Mount St. Helens. Isn't it?
No, not Mount St. Helens.
Isn't that in America? Where's Mount St. Helens?
That's in America.
That's in America.
Yeah.
It's
magical Mount St. Helens. No, anyways,
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So, anyways, someplace in
Helens.
like an ancient part of Europe, right? And where the Pillars of Hercules are, these ancient Egyptian priests, they said that the same people who built those are the same people who built ancient Egypt, right? And the point in that is that their story says that that is where like their ancient ancestors come from. And if they're one and the same, then that means that places of Europe and Egypt were built by the same people. So okay,
Yeah.
well, who were those people? Where did they come from? Where's all this, right? Then you said, you mentioned an interesting story about the story of Noah and the Bible and the flood and all that, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
do you know where they ended up landing, right? According to the story, like, do you know where Noah's like ship landed?
Well, it was apparent. Well, it was just off Mount.
The
Well,
Ca-
they claimed where they found it, didn't they? And it was off a
the
mountain.
Caucasus the Caucasus Mountains,
Yeah, that's the one.
right? Now
Yeah.
here's the interesting thing. Do you know where the term Caucasian comes from? The Caucasus
Oh,
Mountains. And the reason that they
huh.
call it the Caucasus Mountains is because Noah and his people were there because they
I
were
didn't know that.
Caucasian.
Huh.
And that's where all of that comes from. Now, you could probably, some historian would debate me and say that that's bullshit, but I mean, like,
Mm.
the comparisons are there. Tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. Like, but there's an
Uh,
interesting play there, right? Because when
yeah.
you think about Noah and you think about the Bible and you think about all of them, you're thinking like Middle Eastern
Huh.
people, the Caucasus Mountains, Caucasians.
Yeah. I wouldn't say necessarily. I mean, this is the problem with like races. I mean, even if you used to go back, we don't know.
We
Got
don't
no
know.
fucking idea
We
at
have no
all.
clue.
We're only just basically finding out that people were traveling over the Bering Land Strait. You
That's
know,
right.
so if we're finding out now, we're only just we're only just literally. It's like you say, we're only just seeing the tip of the iceberg.
That's right.
We're barely seeing what's underneath, which is 80%, if not more. There's so much more to get into. You know, even Atlantis. Maybe that's still fucking real. If they were a highly advanced civilization that kind of sunk, who knows? They could have survived a little bit.
Yeah,
You don't know.
absolutely. You don't
They
know.
were. History is just. It's a very strange one because we only get told a narrative, and it's so. Like I say, it's by the victors, the conquerors. Doesn't matter what country you're from. It's always told because hey, we've come here, we've fucked up, and we're going to take over. You know, it's
Yeah.
like the Mayans. You know, with the Spanish conquistadors, they fucking, you know, they fuck loads of shit up.
That's right.
They're crazy. You know, think about even all the gold that's still apparently scattered to the modern day over the states. There's like mountains apparently where they're buried now. They apparently accidentally sunk one. There's some sort of myth.
Hmm.
There's some guy or a legend or whatever. There's some guy was out walking somewhere. Can't remember where it was, and he went into this little cave and come across this huge amount of obviously Spanish plunder that the conquistadors had hidden. And then obviously went to come back, and then went to mine it out with some dynamite to blow a deeper shaft because he couldn't get it out, and then boom, sunk it all. There's like a legend around it somewhere. I can't remember where it is, but it's one of those American things. There's a
Indeed.
lot of them. A
Yes.
lot of them.
Yes.
Well, we haven't really spoke much. Well, we've spoke a lot more about conspiracies and stuff. We briefly got into your book about this, you know, the start. Do you want to talk a little bit more about your book before we round on up?
Yeah. So I touch on a few things, right? I talk about what the ego is, which you and I have kind of talked about a little bit. An ego is all of the things that make you who you are, but it's like an onion. It's just a layer of who you are, and it's not real. When you get underneath all of that, you realize that you're like a wave in the ocean. You exist for a time, and you come up, and then you go down, and then you're now one with the ocean again, right? And that's a very beautiful and simple way for me to
Yeah.
put it, but that's all it has to be. The problem with unhappiness is that we're busy trying to make it something more than that, right? We all want to have a purpose. We all want to like be famous and have this thing. And that's just something that we've learned. That's something that we've learned to become. And then I talk about forgiveness, and I talk about why that's important, because forgiveness is everything, right?
It's very, very important.
People are angry at
Very
each other
important.
right now. And the reason that they're angry is because they don't know how to have compassion and forgive one another. That's it. That's the biggest problem we have. We have a compassion problem. We're angry at each other and we don't know how to deal with it. And then lastly, I talk about meditation, and I talk about my experiences with deep meditation and why that's important. And really what I want for the book is I want it to help people. I want it to touch people and help them see life for what it is. Take the blinders off, take the emotional restraint jacket off, and just be themselves, just be themselves, whatever that is.
I mean, I'm going to have to read said book.
Absolutely.
Problem is, because I've had so many authors on, and I love reading, but I've got like this. I'm like 4 behind at the minute. I need more time to read. It's a huge. It's a very big problem. I mean, I read at night, but because I'm shattered, or I'm still doing podcasts for the night sometimes, I'm finding it difficult to read a lot lately, which sucks for me.
Understood. Yeah.
What is one of your favorite books?
I've got a lot of them. I love to read. One
Favorite
of my
author, so to speak.
I really enjoy Ram Dass, and I really enjoy Thich Nhat Hanh.
Okay.
Ram Dass was a Harvard psychology professor until he got kicked out for giving his students LSD, because he was a major hippie. Yeah.
That's where it rings a bell. I was sitting there. I was like, huh. I was literally trying to work that out then. Yeah.
He's great. He's a very good author. Thich Nhat Hanh is a Vietnamese monk. He was alive during the Vietnam War, and he came to America to advocate for peace. He worked with Martin Luther King.
Yeah, I don't know who that one is. I know the first, but not the second. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, very, very good. It's just, I'm about trying to learn how to be more happy and peaceful, and those two really just know how to bring it home.
Well, I mean, so I'm just going to write that down. It's another one of the joys. I like to always make mental notes, so to speak.
Yeah.
Got hundreds of post-it notes everywhere, just full of little look into type things. When you try and word this different. I mean, I wanted to get into it more at the start of the show, but I didn't know if you had any fucked up like sort of war stories, but then I didn't know if you'd put them into your book, and I didn't want to give any spoilers away, because obviously there's no point you going, this and this, and then you've got it in your book. No, but is there anything that you could say that's not in your book that or that you're not going to write about? Just because obviously I don't want you to fuck up your book sales, so to speak. No, I don't want to. Yeah, so that's why I was trying to reword it in a way where it was it's a strange question, just in the format I've put it.
Experiences that happened, when we trained to go over there, my expectation was that we were going to be in gunfights every day, right? And that was the expectation they gave us. And really, that's not what happened. What happened was we ended up being more of like a hospital. We treated people, and people around us got hurt, and we ended up having to treat them and take care of them. We did lots of like local government missions where like we were like fingerprinting and retina scanning all the villagers around us.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
We helped them like do their first election. So we did stuff like that too. But yeah, like I was in the middle of a mass casualty incident that I write about in the book, where there was a bunch of Afghani policemen that got hurt. And we had no medic at the time when this happened, so we had to do it ourselves, which for infantry guys, like we get basic like medical training, but we're not a medic. We can fix boo-boos and owies, and that's about it. And then my truck got blown up by a roadside bomb that was pretty big. It was massive. I got a concussion from it, and I talk about that in the book too. But yeah, it wasn't like, like you see in a lot of movies, but I had my share of, excitement for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, people always, it's the problem with Hollywood is they make everything over the top, and it's warfare 24/7. I know that isn't the case. I've even dated people in like military and shit like that. And I've had family members that have like, well, it's a weird one. It's a family member, so to speak. It's like a down the line who was a,
Oh, okay, yeah.
but he was a lieutenant and he got fucked up. He got blew up by an IUD, which was pretty fucked up. Uh, but that was what it was many years ago. So this is why I can respect people who do shit for their country. It's a big thing, even regardless of the country, because it's what you believe in.
Yeah.
So some people could look at that in a fucked up way and go, "Well, yeah, but what about fucking Russia and all that?" But yeah, it's the country. It doesn't matter. We just need to all literally learn to fucking work as one. I think this is kind of why a lot of shit is. I think the people are talking at the minute like, oh, they're going to stage some kind of big thing to lure us into one, and that's like what the pandemic is. We've all got a, it's a conspiracy,
Might be, yeah, might be.
I think aliens are going to be the one that unites us. That's the big one they're talking about.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I get hung up on that too, because in ways I think that it would be better if we had a government like that, and then in other ways, like, I don't know, like, people need to be able to protect themselves. Honestly, I think the best case scenario is no government, just people being people. I think we could survive without government. I think that if everybody just wanted to exist and we just had a globally mutual agreement to just leave each other alone, and if we want to work with each other, and if some country has a resource, okay, well then we work together. But there are so many businesses, right? Like, countries are run on businesses, they're not run by the
Oh yeah.
government. Just stop it, take out the middleman, and let's just do the right thing.
Well, it's like you spoke a little bit like earlier with the cults. When you look at the Bilderberg, that is fucking. Have you ever seen that? There's like a little meme chart going round. It's like a bunch of circles, like a bunch of looks like a spirograph, and it's like all of the outside companies, and then who they're owned by, and then who they're owned by, and then by the time it comes into the middle, it's like 6 companies.
That's right.
But then when you go out, you're like, I didn't know they was owned by them, and then even then, when you go into the middle, they're all still interlinked. So but the only thing that it doesn't leave out is that one last thing in the middle. This link of 6. They're all interconnected because it's all a big web. It looks like a dream catcher. But there's nothing really in the middle. Well, there's got to be. You can't tell me it just stops there.
Yeah.
It's nonsense.
No, you're right.
Well, listen. This has been a very good chat.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Tim.
No, it's all good. I wish we'd have spoken a little bit more about, obviously, the army and stuff like that. But it was we hit upon a lot of other topics, which most of them are my favourite topics, which I love it. This is what most of my show's about, is conspiracies and nonsense and bullshit, and you've got a very good take on a lot of things. I think we're going to chat a lot.
Yeah, let's do it again. Yeah, let's do it again.
I always invite people to come back on, and I think you're going to be one of them.
Damn, I like talking about this stuff. It's not often I get to. I obviously love philosophy and I love peace, trying to help people, but I love a good conspiracy and I love talking about it.
Well, I mean, the thing, I don't really talk. I don't like to talk to my guests much beforehand because I like it to just be very free flow and just see where it goes.
Yeah.
Because it just always ends up going in any direction. It always works. It's not worked so far. I'm waiting for it one day to go very sour, but I don't think it will. But it's the next time I'm going to have a structure. I always tend to, when I'm speaking to someone for the second or third time, to have a structure, because the first one I can get a feel of the person. And I go, okay, now I know the next conversation. Now we can plan and we can build to it. But this has been one of the most interesting ones. Normally I'll sit here and smoke the world out, but I haven't. I've been pretty glued.
Good.
I've been very glued. So I'd want to keep going, but I actually need to get some food.
Yeah, for sure. I gotta get some stuff done.
Yeah, it's like
Let's
it's like
do it again. Just whenever you got time, invite me. I've got a lot of free time these days, so just invite me on whenever you got a chance, and I'll be here.
well, normally I'll get like a couple of regulars, like once a month.
Okay.
So we could do that if you want.
Yeah,
Just have a little chat once a month, talk over. We'll pick a topic, and then we'll just hash it over. Blah blah blah. I'm sure there's many, and the thing is with what we're interested in, there's always new things always coming in, and we seem to watch the same documentaries, I think. So it seems very apparent. So I think what the next conversation will be, I think we'll pick one singular topic, and get an interest in different viewpoints. We're probably going to maybe be the same. I think yours might be a bit more better than mine. Maybe.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe we could talk about Graham Hancock next.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where can people follow you?
So yeah, if anybody wants to check out what I do, my podcast is Hermit_radio. And if you want to find me on social media, it's just Cameron Harman. And my book is Caveman to Philosopher, and you can find that on my social media site. So just check me out there.
Well, this has been the Post-Human Podcast, folks. I've been your host, Tim Turner. Catch you next time, people.